guys, I'm Jennifer, and happy Friday to all of you. If you're watching live, I'd love if you said hi in the comments so we know who's here with us. We've got some exciting stuff going on today. I am really excited. We have an important topic to discuss because it's something that's really common and yet not very well understood. And we have a special guest here to talk about this with us. But first, I have a special announcement. This is coming pretty last minute, but I wanted to let all of you know I have a last minute trip booked over the next 2 weeks. I'm leaving today. I'm leaving right after the show. So that means because I am not yet equipped to handle any tech issues on the road, it means that I'm not going to be doing my regularly scheduled lives for the next 2 weeks. And so I'm gonna miss you. But I may be doing some bonus lives. Dizzy's gonna be traveling with me, so we might be doing some fun stuff on the road. But I won't be able to stream both to Facebook and YouTube. So we'll see what happens there. We're figuring it out on the fly. But again, there will be no regularly scheduled live streams the next 2 weeks, although I will be making some recorded videos, so you'll get to see what we're up to. I will be working with a little puppy the next few days, so hopefully I'll get to share Millie the puppy with you, because we're pretty excited about that. Let me just say hi, everyone. Wagging Tails Dog Training, CK's Antics, Impartial Geek, April, Sandy, Karen, hi everybody. Karen says, give handsome Dizzy a hug for me. Oh, I will. Yeah, if David was coming with me, he could totally help me with all the tech stuff, but he's not. It's just me and the dog. April, you're so funny. How can I live without your teaching? I'll be in touch via the recorded videos. But yeah, I will miss you all too. So I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys all know, because this is kind of last minute. But yeah, that's what's going on. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Nicola Squire is an honors graduate of Jean Donaldson's Academy for Dog Trainers. She is also Fear-Free certified and has completed Michael Shikashio's Aggression Dogs Masterclass. Those are some really, really nice credentials, you guys. This is, we're talking very educated dog professional here. She owns Carefree Canine in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where she has been serving a niche need for help with dogs that have fear, anxiety, and aggression-based behavior problems. This has spurred a desire to educate the public about body language and prevention of behavior problems starting in puppyhood. This is so important and so applicable for so many dogs and their owners. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Nicola Squire. Let's all give her a welcome. Hi, Nicola.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, did I get all that right?
You did.
Okay, good. How long have you been training?
Professionally with my business, I think it's 3 years or maybe 4.
Very nice.
The last year is kind of a blur.
Yeah, and it sounds like in your area there's quite a need for help with those issues, specifically dealing with fear and aggression, right?
Yeah, I never set out to have that specific niche, but that's what comes my way, and so that's what I've gotten used to, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's not just in your area though. Sorry, I gotta give Dizzy some treats because he's hiding under the desk and he's not happy about my feet. Yeah, so it's common in your area, but it's not. It's kind of everywhere, like any city, suburbs, like anywhere. It doesn't matter where. A lot of dogs deal with this, and there's a lot we can do from puppyhood to avoid such problems, right? But let's kind of start out talking about what that experience is like for the owners. what are some of the challenges that people face when they have dogs with fear and aggression problems? Do you wanna talk to our audience about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are, of course, a huge number of different problems that a dog might have. Anything from separation anxiety to just general fear, fleeing when they hear stuff. It could be actual aggression, so fear-based aggression. They sound scary in order to drive someone else away, a potential threat away. So, when we have aggressive dogs especially are so trying, but any of these categories, we love our dogs so much and we know that they are suffering, sometimes on a fairly frequent basis, and there's only so much that we can do to change that. So we have that aspect, kind of the guilt that we can't do more to help them. The frustration, if our dog is trying to flee when we have a friend over or aggressing towards that friend, we get frustrated and then maybe we feel guilty because we know that they're not doing it because they intend to. They're doing it because they feel like they have no choice. And then on top of that, if we have aggression issues or even some separation anxiety cases, there are certain things that we just can't do. So, if your dog bloodies themselves at the door or bloodies themselves in their kennel when you leave, you just can't leave them alone. So that creates a huge number of logistical issues, potentially financial issues, where you're now having to hire a sitter, hire, a friend, a neighbor, whatever, to come and watch your dog anytime you leave. If they're aggressive, there are so many things that you have to consider, even just walking out the door. For some people, if they have an aggressive dog in an apartment, it could mean, constant management because there's people walking back and forth in front of the door all the time. And it gets to be really overwhelming. And for a lot of people, it becomes really isolating because they can't have their friends over, they can't have their family over, or it's really, really exhausting to try to have friends and family over or to do anything. And, life is hard anyways. And so if you're going through life trying to make it and then your dog has all these issues that you have to be on top of 24/7, sometimes there are times that you just feel like you have nothing more to give. And then your dog sits there and maybe they start cowering or growling and it's like, well, too bad. You have to give more.
Yeah, talk about the very definition of overwhelm, huh? It probably leaves a lot of people feeling like trapped by their dog, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
and
go ahead.
Yeah, and even, you start to make progress with training, of course, and there are behavior meds that can help. But even then, it's a lot of just being on top of your game 24/7 in case they see something triggering. Because if we're treating that fear or aggression with counter conditioning, we want to keep that 1-to-1 ratio of every time they see a trigger, they get a goodie, a treat. Mm-hmm. And so, if you walk out the door and you want to take a walk with your dog, you have to be on top of it, looking around, trying to look for triggers, trying to make sure you see them before your dog does, so you can measure the distance and make sure there's enough distance between you and give your dog treats at the appropriate times. And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I don't think many people realize.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to think about, and it's, I think, adding to the overwhelm and the frustration and all of those feelings is the fact that these people probably didn't imagine when they were getting a dog that they were going to be dealing with all of this stuff, right? Like when people adopt a dog, most of the time you imagine it being so much easier, right? And like that you're able to just take your dog on a leisurely walk and that it's enjoyable for you too. And then to kind of have the script flipped completely and you're like, I always have to be on guard and vigilant, and there's a huge amount of disappointment that goes along with it too. And sometimes it can be hard not to feel resentful toward your dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't remember who said it, but someone said nobody gets a dog to have a project or to have, this thing that you always have to worry about. We get dogs because we love them and we want to have companionship and fun.
Yeah.
We don't get them because we want, a nervous wreck, even though we love them.
I mean, well, I will say this. Most people don't get a dog to have a project. There are those saintly people out there who adopt dogs knowing it's going to be a project, and they do it anyway. And those people, I mean, they deserve all the credit in the world, right? But yeah, for the most part, it's having dog ownership be harder than you expected. It compounds all of those feelings.
Yeah, and even then, for example, I had a Chihuahua for a year and a half or so. He'd been dumped on a friend's mother, elderly mother, and so I took him in, and he had this huge laundry list of issues: reactive, body handling, not great with other dogs, afraid of cats, huge. And I went into it thinking I was going to foster him, he'd get over his issues, and then I'd adopt him out, and, all would be well. And then a year later, I'm like, okay, nobody wants a dog like this. And also, the people who would be willing to take him on probably don't realize what it's like to live with him, and that it's not okay to just kind of ignore his problems and make him deal with stuff. So, I was fully prepared to just keep him forever. Not because I really wanted to, as much as I love him, but he ended up actually, my parents' elderly dog started really bonding with him. And so they ended up adopting him, and he's doing very well now. But he's still not an easy dog.
No. But so your parents have you to guide them, right? So
exactly.
Do they listen?
They do. Yeah, they're very good about that.
Oh, that's wonderful. We have a couple really relevant comments here. April said that we both nailed the challenges and the feelings, nailed them on the head. Jennifer Pratt's watching. She said, I remember all too well how exhausting it is. And Sandy.
It really is.
Yeah, Sandy says, I felt imprisoned during separation anxiety recovery training. So emotional for the person.
Yeah. My own dog. So a little before my Chihuahua Foster was adopted, my own dog, I got her at 9 weeks old, and she has a lot of issues despite good socialization after I got her. And it's funny because I feel like she's normal sometimes. I feel like she's, a normal dog, and then I'll have someone over, or I'll go to do something with someone who's not used to her, and I'll find myself thinking like, oh wait, no, we can't do that. Oh wait, no, we have to make sure this is in place first. Oh wait, no, I need to have treats before we do this. And it just kind of dawns on me in that case, like, oh wait, no, she's not normal.
Yeah, I
have actually a lot.
I have the same experience, like, with Dizzy at home. It feels very normal. He's like a very happy-go-lucky guy as long as I'm home. But if I leave, it's a problem. And yeah, and if we go out, then you gotta be armed with treats. So, and then if like I'm trying to get him to the point where he can go stay at a sitter, and I got really lucky and found a wonderful sitter who only takes one dog at a time.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But even so, I'm like this crazy parent now who feels like I need to write a book for the sitter, like
totally, yeah.
So much to consider. And finding sitters too is an extra challenge when you've got these kind of dogs. Can you tell us, like, when we talk about, fear and aggression, that phrase, there's a lot of different things that can be encompassed by that. What are the most common issues that you see specifically in your area? Yeah,
in my area, the absolute number one is stranger danger, so fear of unfamiliar people.
Mm-hmm.
And also that tends to bleed into some fear of less familiar people, so maybe family members the dog knows but doesn't know very well.
Yeah.
That's definitely the top one. I also see a lot of general anxiety piled on top of that. Lucky for us, where the dog doesn't need to have a specific trigger to feel icky. They're just kind of anxious all the time. And then things on top of that get an extra big reaction because they're already dealing with something else.
Yeah, because
I do get a lot of. Oh yeah, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to comment on the piling up of issues. Like when you've got one issue, it's like it could be challenging to tackle, but it's like at least it's just one. But when you've got things that pile up, it narrows your options for dealing with things, which is hard. But also for the dog, like the dog's experience, they like trigger stacking gets talked about,
Yeah.
in for humans a lot, and dogs have that too. If you have anxiety about one thing and then something else stressful happens that day, and the cortisol that's running through your body, like it stays there for days, and so something that may not have been a problem one day is a problem. And yeah, these are all things that have to go into our calculations when we're living with these dogs, right?
Yeah. And one thing I don't think people realize is that repeat exposure to something scary doesn't always mean the dog is going to get over it or feel better. My dog especially is extremely good at sensitizing. So she'll see something one day and it'll be like kind of worrisome, but she can cope with it. And then the next day it's much worse. And then the next day it's much, much worse. And it spirals every time she's exposed to that trigger.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people whose dogs react fearful way in a fearful way, and the people recognize it as fear, but I hear it said that like, oh well, she'll get over it, or like just they kind of throw the dog into the deep end. Like if they're afraid of other dogs, this will happen at the dog park. They're like, oh, she'll get used to it, and there are dogs who might, but if it's a fear, it's unlikely. They're more likely to do, like you said, your dog does, where they actually get more and more fearful the more they're exposed to it.
Yeah, it's a really common myth, I guess, that dogs who are afraid of, especially people and other dogs, or like bats, something like that, you just expose them more, and then they're okay with it. They see nothing bad happened, but that's just not how it works. Yeah. And it's not how it works in people either. We don't make that connection very well.
Yeah, it's of course this, but for the audience, when people talk about like humans getting exposed to things that are potentially scary to try and like get over it, when you, like if you're thinking about yourself and something that you're afraid of, and you want to put yourself in that situation, there's this element of choice that makes all of the difference in the world, right? If you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to the zoo and see the snakes, like to try and tackle my fear of snakes. Like you've made that choice, and you know that you always have the control to leave if you want to. Whereas for an animal, they haven't made the choice. They haven't opted in to this, and they don't know if they have the choice to leave either. So it makes it so much less likely that's going to help them deal with it emotionally, right?
Yeah, I also like to make the analogy of a car crash, because I was in a car crash and I've kind of experienced this. If you feel like your life is on the line, whether or not it is, if you feel like your life is on the line and you have that really traumatic event, for example, a car crash, if you're in a car crash and even though nothing bad happened to you, does that make you less likely of car crashes in the future? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably the opposite.
It's a good example. I haven't been in a car crash myself, but I'm still like kind of paranoid on the road. So all right, that was you see a lot of stranger danger, and just to kind of expound upon that a little bit for people, when we talk about stranger danger, it's really common for dogs to be to react fearfully or in an aggressive way toward people that they don't know. And we call it stranger danger. I think it's kind of a cute name for something that's not a really cute issue, right?
Especially when it's aggression as the fear response.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to, another common misunderstanding is that, especially when it's a shelter dog who's been adopted, people think he must have been abused. They think something bad must have happened, but it doesn't have to be. Nothing had to happen at all, except a lack of socialization for a dog to end up with issues like this, which is why trainers talk about that a lot. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit more, Nikala, about why these are so prevalent issues?
Yeah, and I just, because it came to mind, I also want to mention that there is a study on Finland, I believe, that showed that 70% of their population of dogs had some sort of fear, anxiety, or aggression issue.
Where was that?
That is a huge number. Finland.
Oh, wow, yeah, that is huge.
And there was a similar finding in the UK. I don't remember where.
Do you know if any studies like that have been done here in the US?
Not that I know of, but there was that study. I don't remember from what year. It was in the 2000s. But it showed that the leading cause of death in dogs under the age of 3 was behavioral euthanasia. So it's clearly a major issue here as well.
Yeah.
Even beyond anecdotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the question. So there are a few different reasons that dogs might develop fear, anxiety, or aggression. There is the genetics, of course, which I think is actually really undervalued or underattributed, because a lot of dogs have these issues, and if you look at their family members, they also have those issues. And generally, when we're talking about the next factors that we'll discuss in a second, they're not enough to do it on their own. They're not enough to cause fear, anxiety, and aggression on their own. So usually there has to be some sort of genetic predisposition in addition with the other factors.
Yeah.
So another one is mom's behavior and mom's stress during pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So all those puppies in puppy mills, or even just not so great breeding facilities, stressed mom leads to stressed puppies. And then their socialization period actually starts at 3 weeks old, and it runs around to 12 weeks old. So that's a lot of time with the breeder, the rescue, the shelter, a lot of socialization period, and it's especially effective early on. So if puppies are in one stagnant environment, especially if it's not very big, they can't go very far, they're not meeting people and dogs, that's all they're going to feel comfortable with, because this is the time that they are developing connections about safety. So if they have never experienced something, have never deemed it safe, and then, at 12 weeks or later, they suddenly see this thing, they've not made the connection that it's safe. So they're going to assume that it's not. They're going to assume it's dangerous. And we actually need quite a bit of repeat exposure to things for puppies to make really strong pathways about feeling safe around the world, I guess.
Yeah, and not just exposure, but positive exposure, right? A good experience.
Exactly.
For the puppy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if there's a tiny puppy in a shelter environment and lots of people are walking by and tons of dogs are barking and it's scary, that's not really good socialization.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite.
Hopefully. I mean, I have not done a ton of work in the shelter and rescue world, but it seemed we're trying to foster now, and it seems like it's a good thing, but that young puppies tend to get adopted faster, so they don't have to spend as much time in that environment, right? But still, every moment of that age from 3 to 12 weeks is so important to who that dog becomes as an adult, right?
Yeah, and especially if we're talking shelter and rescue, you got to think it's stressful for mom to be in the shelter or, a facility. So if she's stressed out even before the puppies are born, we're already doing damage.
Yeah.
So it's really important to get them out of the shelter way before the puppies come along, and then keep up the positive exposure. Right now I'm getting a lot of dogs who were bred on farms, and you go to the breeder's website and, they say lots of socialization on our farm with kids and grandkids. And it's like, okay, that's great. Kids, grandkids, that's nice. But what happens when the puppy is then familiar with those kids and grandkids? They're no longer being socialized with unfamiliar people. And what happens when they try to move to a city at 12 weeks old or whatever age? They have all this new stimuli with the city noises, tons of unfamiliar people around, tons of different smells. It's a massive change.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot that people don't realize that goes into raising stable puppies and stable adult dogs.
Yeah, that too, I think is a common misunderstanding, is that the puppy just needs to meet some people and meet some dogs, and we've got socialization checked off the list, but that's a small part of socialization, right? Like you said, if they're moving from the farm where they were born to a city or a suburb that's completely different, it's not just being comfortable with novel people and dogs that are unfamiliar, but it's also all of those smells, all of those sights, all of those sounds that weren't present in their farm environment, or perhaps in the home. So, a lot of breeders, I mean, they want to protect the physical health of that puppy, and so they stay inside until they go to their new home. And hopefully when they go to that new home, it's around 8 or 9 weeks old, right? So that the owner who gets them still has a few weeks of that socialization period where the puppy's brain is so primed to learn that things are safe, so that they can learn a lot in their new environment, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned, the question was about how so many dogs end up with fear and anxiety and aggression, and you said the mom's stress during pregnancy, the socialization period, and the genetics, of course, and there's a couple more too, right?
Mom's behavior. Am I missing one? Learned, obviously. Okay.
Yes, the big one, the one everybody does know. Oh my
gosh, the one that we deal with on a daily basis. Yeah, so learned behavior as well. A lot of people don't think about kind of the dog's perception when they are training. So, a lot of people get their puppy home and they're thinking human children understand there's a right and there's a wrong, at least at some age. And there's things that they should do and things that they should not do. Dogs don't have this concept at all at any age. So when people are trying to teach their dog, no, you should not chew on that shoe, they might get kind of scary, tell the dog, no, sound scary, look scary, get in that dog's space, maybe even rip the shoe away from them. That's all adding fear to that puppy's life. And so we are actually teaching them in that moment to fear us rather than to not chew on shoes.
Yeah, and it's a very innocent kind of thing for those owners to do, right? They're wanting to do right by their puppy by teaching them the rules, and dogs do need to understand the rules of the society that they're going to live in. And the way that we tend to think is, we can reward for what's right and we punish for what's wrong. But punishment has a lot of side effects, and those effects are exaggerated if they occur during puppyhood, right?
Yeah. So, and obviously this isn't only with puppies. So Jennifer and I, of course, we teach with force-free training, rewards-based training, whatever you want to call it. We don't use scary consequences or painful consequences, partially because we love dogs and we want training to be fun, but also because if we bring fear of consequences into dogs' lives, we're teaching them all sorts of things we don't want to about their safety. So if we're threatening them, even though we know it's not, going to be super painful or abusive or anything, the dog doesn't know that. And it does have to be scary in order to work. And so Jennifer and I don't like to use aversives, scary body language, yelling, aversive collars like prong, choke, shock. We don't like to use those because we don't want dogs to be fearful and to develop negative associations and be at a heightened risk for fear, anxiety, and aggression.
Yeah. And this might be beyond the scope of what we have time for today, but that is kind of surprising and yet I hope good news to a lot of people that you can train a dog to behave beautifully without those things, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, and especially when I work with so many aggressive dogs, people do tend to be a little surprised that we train dogs with some serious aggression without any sort of fear or force or physical punishment. And it's not only highly effective to train aggressive dogs that way, but it's safer because we're teaching them that they are safe, so they don't need to enforce their safety with aggression.
Yeah. That's and it that's one that I hear a lot is that, well, if he's got an aggression issue, you have to use, harsher or firmer methods because it's so important, because you have to protect people that are near the dog. And it's truly a misconception. You can train it all with being really nice and treats and so I'm sorry I interrupted you though. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I was just going to say, like I was saying with people being surprised that you can work aggression, it's not just the occasional snarl or the occasional growl. You can treat really serious problems, aggression problems this way successfully and safely.
What's the worst case? Can I ask that? In terms of like how bite damage?
Luckily, I haven't had any sort of maiming. I've had stitches. I don't want to get too detailed just for their privacy, but we've had dogs with stitches, inflicted damage that needed stitches.
Yeah, so bites that are requiring medical treatment. Yeah, I mean, and you're treating them with treats, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. April says, ding, 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 bring on more good news and hope. You're doing good work here, Nikala.
It does get better. It does.
It does. Yeah, it's not something that you or your dog have to live with forever. Bravo Pup Dog and Puppy Training, I just want to read her comment here. Sam and I keep score when we go out for walks. If he doesn't react, he gets a point. We try to rack up points and win each outing. Makes it a game instead of stressful for the human.
Which can be an awesome idea.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that really, making it a game is a good idea because it can feel like such a defeat when you have, you're working on an issue and it's starting to get better and then all of a sudden your dog does react and maybe they react more than once and maybe it's kind of a big reaction. It feels like such a defeat. But progress doesn't always happen in a straight line, so it happens.
Oh man, to follow up on that, Sandy says, I lost the game on Wednesday when he pulled me off my feet, sprained my ankle, and bashed in my knee. Oh my gosh, Sandy.
Oh, wow.
I hope you're recovering. It's been 2 days, it sounds like it. That's, oh my goodness. What was it, I wonder? Dog or person that Sam was trying to get
Yeah.
to? Um, so, okay, cool, cool, cool. Let's see. So the that's we talked about a lot of ways that the dogs can end up with issues like this, but we've got a few minutes left, and probably more than enough to fill that time. We could talk for probably a couple
Yeah.
hours about what we can do to try and avoid even developing these problems in the first place. And so we can talk about this. Let's do it in maybe chronological order, like for breeders. What can breeders do or know to help avoid sending dogs home to owners with these problems?
Yeah, good one. So, first of all, genetics, being really honest about the parent dogs. Are they easily stressed out? What is their reaction to people and dogs they don't know, especially dogs who are not very polite and are kind of getting up in their face? If they have these issues, they are very likely to pass them on. So be really honest about the genetics. And then as mom is pregnant, keeping her very safe feeling, making sure she's comfortable with the area that she's going to be whelping her puppies in. When they come, making sure the puppies hear and they get a lot of exposure to different things. When they're super tiny, we might not do as much like treats because they can't really take much. But they are still making connections and learning when they are super young. And then, of course, when they hit that 3-week mark, we can take them out and we can, take them on field trips gradually. They don't necessarily even have to touch the ground. You can just have a kennel in the back of your vehicle, take them out to a park and let them watch. And give them some treats as people walk up. Different sounds, different surfaces, different objects, maybe things that wobble and fall over. That's one of my dog's big triggers, is things that wobble and fall over. There are so many different things that we can do. There are actually a couple of programs for breeders who don't really want to, and I can't blame them, don't really want to come up with every single stimulus that a puppy could use to get used to. So puppy culture is one of them, one of the big ones. And then Avid Dog Puppy College, I think it is. That's the other big one that has a list and at what developmental stage they should be introducing things to puppies to get them really comfortable just existing basically in a human world. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, encouraging puppy buyers or even requiring that puppy buyers use force-free, reward-based training methods to make sure they don't inadvertently create trauma-based fear, anxiety, and aggression in the future.
Yeah, and that's something that shelters and rescues can do too if they're adopting out puppies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that shelter and rescue don't have, typically a ton of funding to, purchase these puppy culture and Avid Dog resources. But there are lots of trainers who would be willing to help. A lot of trainers who want to help. Yeah, we do. And we're happy to help develop some of these plans for foster parents, or if there's absolutely no choice and they need to be in the shelter, making that the least stressful it could possibly be for mom, and getting these puppies exposed to things in a positive way so that they're not shell-shocked when they leave. There's a lot we can do.
Yeah, and those programs like puppy culture, or those resources that they give that kind of give you not just what you can expose the puppies to, but also that timeline, that extends into the ages where the puppy's going to the new family, so new owners can continue that socialization, right?
Yeah, I know puppy culture does for sure. I'm not sure if avid dog extends to when people buy their puppies.
Yeah, I'm not as
But
familiar with Avidog.
yeah, me either. But I've heard really good things about it.
Okay.
And of
Yeah.
course, there are resources like certified trainers for when people pick up their puppies. We're ready and set to provide a socialization type program.
Yeah, and this is speculation, but I kind of just fear that a lot of people, when they think of dog training or dog trainer, it's like that's a person that you call when your dog has a problem or you have a problem with the dog that you want to
Yes.
fix. But puppyhood is like the time to get it right, right? Those weeks, maybe between 8 weeks when you get them and the closing of their socialization window at 12 or 14 some weeks around there, depending on the individual dog, are the most impactful that you're going to have that dog. And it's not, I don't think we can underemphasize how important it is to be getting things right during those weeks, right?
Yeah, and to be proactive, don't wait until your dog is biting you in the bathtub to do something.
Yeah.
Get them to us first and let us, build up that scary stuff gradually and in a positive way so we can prevent problems before we even see them.
Yeah, and it just to go back to where we started, like it's so I mean, I have not raised a puppy as an adult. Most of my career training dogs has been work with puppies, but I have not had my own. I got dizzy as an adolescent, so but I've seen people, when they have that puppy and it's like it's so cute and you're doing all of the things, and it's so hard to imagine that there could ever be a problem, right? So
yeah. Even as a professional dog trainer, when I got my puppy at 9 weeks old, I recognized that she was shy. I absolutely knew that she was a little sensitive, but it did not dawn on me until she had some major fear reactions a few months later that there was anything especially wrong. And so even though she'd been getting, positive socialization and I was respecting when she didn't want to do things, I wish I had taken it a little bit more seriously. As soon as I saw that fear or apprehension that should have gone away faster, and would have in a normal, healthy dog brain, puppy brain.
Puppy brain.
Yeah. You have those rosy colored glasses and you expect it to turn out okay because you're doing everything right.
Yeah. And it does sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But that those genetics and those the mother's experiences do play a role, and you'll hear people say that, oh, well, it's all in how you raise them. But that's not entirely true. Those genetics do play a role in behavior. That the whole nature versus nurture argument has been put to rest, right? It's both. Inextricably so. So if you've gotten a puppy, whether you've gotten it from a breeder or a rescue and shelter, there's a lot you can do with those first few weeks, and trainers will. I feel like we talk about it so much, and but I don't think we can talk about it enough still because it's so crucial.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah. So once you've got the puppy home, there's a lot you can do. But what about people who are considering getting a puppy and they wanna make the right choices that will set them up for success with their future dog? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, good question. So if you want to go the breeder or rescue route, first of all, I recommend doing a little bit of homework, seeing how honest they are about behavior, because some of them will use, and breeders too, not just shelter and rescue, but a lot of them will use euphemisms like aloof or, takes a while to warm up, to kind of downplay fear. And so when you're asking, try to get as much information as you possibly can about the parents, about where the puppies came from, about how they react to various stimuli. And if it's important that the puppy, get along with unfamiliar people and dogs, if that's important to you, then you're going to want to look for an outgoing, confident, maybe even obnoxious puppy. Because that's the puppy that's going to be most likely to, excel with socialization and be a really stable adult. If you go the breeder route, you want to be probably 10 times more skeptical, I'd say, because there is the spectrum. It's not just, puppy mills or good breeders. There's the spectrum of, they do some things right, but these other things are lacking. Generally, if you want a really healthy, happy adult dog, you're going to want to look for a breeder who is health testing those parents, not just a vet check, actual health testing, hips, elbows, whatever the breed club recommends. They should have some sort of socialization plan in place. So it doesn't necessarily have to be puppy culture or avid dog, but they should be able to say something more than just well socialized or, meets the grandkids. They should have an actual structured program for that. And then getting to know the parent dogs if possible. This can be kind of difficult if you're looking for someone, a few states away, because not every breed is in every state, or at least not from responsible breeders. So even just like having a video conferencing, the technology is on our side these days, having a video conferencing call where you watch the dog interact in their environment, getting really familiar with body language so that you can spot if the dog is actually pretty apprehensive and shy and hesitates to do stuff, or if they are really comfortable and they go about their day doing dog stuff. And asking the breeder specific questions, about how they react to, a friend that comes in the door unexpectedly, or a dog that rushes up to them on a walk. Get specific, because good temperament is subjective. A German Shepherd breeder is probably going to think that a good temperament means barking at strangers.
Yeah.
So we need to get really specific about the questions we ask and what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, when you've made the decision that you're going to get a puppy, and you start looking and you find breeders that you like and they have litters and they have pictures and you're like, you get so excited. I find that it can be really tempting to overlook some things because out of optimism and hope that it probably will be okay. But, again, that's talk to your future self, right? About how are you going to feel if the genetics that you spent $2,000-$3,000 maybe on a dog, but because of the genetics passed down from those parents, you've got a dog that you can't take to a friend's house, or you can't take it out in public even, the genetics do matter. And it can be
It's really hard to make a logical decision.
It's so hard.
Again, with my dog, even though she wasn't from a breeder, I was looking for a Great Pyrenees mix, and I was overly optimistic. I saw the red flags. The fact that they weren't willing to tell me about mom, show me pictures of mom. They weren't willing to talk about what she was experiencing as a baby. And then they told me that she was the calm one. That's a big red flag for a puppy. People don't realize that puppies should not be calm all the time, even large breed puppies.
They should sleep a lot, but when they're awake.
They should have rambunctious moments. Yeah. So
Huh.
the signs were there, but I was eager. I was a professional dog trainer. I was going to make it better.
I mean, this is from us to you guys. It is so hard to say no once you're
It
so
is.
close. It's like, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps because we were in the market for a puppy recently, and it's so hard because you just don't know. You just don't know. And to say no, it's like, I mean, especially if the breeder's close enough that you actually do get to meet the puppies in person. Oh Lord,
Oh, that's so
help
much
you.
worse.
I mean, you just, professional trainer or not, like, your brain just gets taken over by puppies, and it's like,
Yep.
it's so hard to back out. So that's why I recommend, I mean, asking, like Nicola said, like, ask so many questions and ask specific questions, and really listen to the answers. You know, you want to have answers that make you happy, right?
Yeah, and think about what it means for your future if
Yes.
those answers don't come back very positive or ideal.
Yeah, because it's only a puppy for a couple months, and then you've got an adolescent, and then you've got an adult, and you're talking about probably over a decade of dealing with behavior issues
Yeah.
if it's gone wrong. And I love, so are you familiar with Hannah Brannigan?
Yeah.
Hannah Brannigan's,
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're going to say. I love it.
isn't it? We love Hannah Brannigan. She's a really awesome trainer. She does a lot of dog sports. But I remember hearing her say, and I'm not going to get it, it's not an exact quote, but she said something along the lines of, before you bring the puppy home, you've got all the control in the world about choosing a dog who's got the right genetics, who came from a mom who has not been experiencing stress and doesn't have that kind of personality, and you've got the control over that part before your puppy comes home. After they've come home, you've got control over the socialization and the training and how you treat them. But there's this dividing line, and so put all of your resources into that making that right decision. And if it means waiting, it means waiting, you know. But you're gonna get a dog eventually, and you just want to, yeah. it's such an important decision because a dog truly changes your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a couple really good comments here. Oh, and a question. April says, very interesting comment about the calmest puppy. That's probably not talked about very much. Martha says, I just steered a friend away from rescuing 2 Catahoula mix litter mates who were rescued from the ice storm. Just not the right gamble for their upcoming life plans. And that life plans thing is a really important point, right, guys? Like, if you live, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, or you don't do a lot of social things, and that's not the life that you imagine for your puppy, or that a dog, really, we should be talking about who the dog is as an adult, then it's maybe less crucial. But if you are living in a city or you like to be very social, it becomes so much more important when you're making these decisions. The other thing that Martha kind of brought up is adopting 2 puppies at the same time, especially from the same litter.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, guys. If you've never raised a puppy, it is a lot of work. And if you have 2, I think there's this idea that, well, while I'm doing the work for one, like, what's one more? But you really do have to do all of the socialization and training for one, and it's more than twice the work. Because you have to.
It's a good idea for kittens, not puppies.
Not puppies. Nope. And then CK's Antics had a good question about if the breeder is AKC certified. Is that good? Do you want to answer that one?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
No, actually. So the AKC has some issues. Certification papers, or however they phrase it, the papers are meant to be a service for the breeders to track pedigrees. It is not meant to prove anything about the puppies. You can register things incorrectly. There are stories, I don't know how true they are, but there are stories of people registering like a basket of fruit or something.
What?
There is no oversight. There is no like quality control. I realized recently actually, the AKC recommended breeders. So, they imply that there's this extra layer of checking the breeder out. A lot of them are puppy mills, straight up warehouse puppy mills. So no, absolutely do not trust the fact that they are AKC certified, AKC recommended. None of that. Do not rely on that.
Yeah. I mean, and the AKC is probably the most well-known organization, and people, you would think you could trust it, right? I actually
didn't. It's really disappointing. Yeah.
I didn't know this until this year, actually. So that's, good things to know if you're getting a puppy.
Yeah, that was a really great question.
Really good question, CK. We could probably, we're going to have to wrap this up soon because I do have to get on the road, but maybe Nikala would be happy to come back and talk one day about, we could probably spend a whole hour talking about what to look for, what questions to ask, what are the red flags. I mean, we could get really detailed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. April says, holy cow on the AKC. Sounds like someone is just making money on our ignorance. And that's really, I don't think anybody's sets out to be malicious in this way. It's just that, if you can make money, they just don't have to think about what the owner is going to deal with once the puppy leaves their home or their warehouse. But this is with dogs, especially because they do have such an impact on our lives, whether or not they have fear and anxiety and aggression. Even if you have like an easy dog, it does truly impact your life in such a huge way. Just ignorance, just not knowing things, no matter who we are, whether we're the breeder or a rescue or an adopter or a trainer, like not knowing things has huge ripple effects. And so it's just good to have more conversations about it, and so more people know and can make decisions that feel right for them, right? Yeah. CK says, yes, I want to make sure I pick a good breeder. Okay, cool. We'll put that on the agenda for you, CK. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. Huge thank you to Nikala for coming on and sharing all of this information with us. Do you want to let everybody know? We've got your website here if anyone does want to reach out to you at carefreecanine.org. But you are also on social media. Do you want to share where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook at Carefree Canine, on Instagram at Carefree Canine, where I do like to share videos and pictures, and on Facebook, blog posts and videos. Lots of fun stuff, tips, fun pictures, whatever.
We love to make it fun.
Absolutely.
Cool. And just as a reminder, I want to thank you all for joining me. And also, if you have appreciated this information and would like to see more like it, you can always hit subscribe on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, like or follow. And if you do know any puppy owners or people looking for dogs who could benefit from information like this, you can always share the videos. We really appreciate that, and that really helps. Links to check out Nikola's social media and her website are down in the description, as are some other cool links. We have just added a couple of videos of viewers' dogs in our countdown video, and I would love to be able to show off more dogs. So if you would like to show off how cute your dog is, there's a link in the description for that, as well as some ways to support us so that we can keep doing this work. So again, and another reminder, everybody, I'll be on the road the next 2 weeks, and so our regular live schedule just won't be happening, although I will be sharing some recorded videos so you guys know what we're up to. So with that, thank you so much, and happy Friday, and we'll see you when we see you. All right, bye everybody.